Welcome to SNG Weekly, everyone. We're back again for another fun-filled week doing all kinds of really wild and crazy stuff. This week, we're going to be doing submarines. Yes, we're going to, well, you saw that last week we had to get all the subs out, dust them off, and get them all working. Now they're all working. I'm going to get them in the test tank and get them functioning, and we're going to get a test tank this week. Mary and I are going to find one online and buy it and get it installed and put water in it so we can actually film from the outside and you can actually see the submarines in operation, which is going to be really, really cool. Additionally, I'm going to be making up some ears in silicone for the first time and painting those with silicone painting system. I'm going to be working on painting our Martian from Martians Attacks, SNG, and a whole bunch more. So let's get on with the show. Oh, you caught me. Well, I'm painting ears, and what I've done here, these are silicone. These are not latex, and these are made out of skin from BermanIndustries.com. There are a lot of prosthetic grade silicones being used to make prosthetics and ears and things on the internet, but I like the Berman stuff. It's really, really good. It's very easy to work with. It's two-part, mix it, tint it. I pre-tinted it, and what I did to paint it, since you can't get anything to stick to silicone, I did not use Baldy's, Prosaid, and fiber flocking to adhere a surface to this that I can paint. What I did instead was using these are alcohol-based makeups that you can airbrush onto people's skins. There's also a palette that goes with it. Yeah, the stuff is great. This is Real Creations, and I highly recommend these. They're really, really good. And you can get them from Friends Beauty Supply, also owned by my friend Sam, who also owns Berman Industries. And Sam has been a huge help with getting me adjusted to these new techniques from the old rubber and latex days. Thank you, Sam. So we've got the Real Creation stuff here, and these colors here actually match a palette they have too. And this is to go on human skin, but it's alcohol based, and it sprays and airbrushes very easily onto the silicone. Of course, that will not last. If you rub the silicone or something like that, you're going to rub the paint off because nothing sticks to silicone. So what Sammy told me to do was to take some silicone, and this is their silicone, and I thinned it with their special thinner. It's a Dow Corning thinner, and I put a little tiny bit of pigment in it so it's translucent. And after spraying on this, the Real Creations alcohol-based makeup, I then airbrushed a coat of clear over the top, and you can see how nice that is. It'll get a little less shiny as it dries, but they're very translucent and very flesh-like. And I'm really, really pleased because this is just such a nice look. And of course, these ears being made out of silicone, the latex ears that I made were very, very thick, and they'll probably last 30, 40 years. I mean, sometimes even longer. I know Bob Burns still has the original hand that gets cut off from the original thing, and that was made out of solid latex, and it's still fine after all those years. When it's very thick, it lasts a very long time. But these will literally last eons, so from what I know of silicone. They should last a great deal of time. These are only for display. You cannot wear these. They are cast, of course, from the original molds. You see how they're solid up in there. These are cast from the original molds that I did for Star Trek, the motion picture, for Fred Phillips. So, working on the last pair of Spock ears for today. Done several. And these, of course, are in silicone now. And I'm going to put some little darker color on there now. This is the olive, which it really should be because Leonard had kind of an olive on him. But I've got several colors in there. Okay, now I'm going to put the darker stuff in. I'm just putting some light toner on to take down some of the dark. That looks pretty good. So I'm airbrushing on the silicone, which is finally coming out. As you can see, in great volumes it's coming out. You just need to spray a little bit on there to seal in the makeup paint, airbrushed makeup paint I use. And then this will actually kick off and seal in. Just making sure it's just really a good consistency right now. I'm looking to see, I can see a sheen in the lighting here, and that's when I know I'm really getting a good amount on. This is pretty thick, this stuff. I'm surprised it's going on as easy as it is. That should be very adequate what I've got on here now. You don't need a lot. Okay, so we got a nice sheen on those all the way around. That will dry, and it seals in the paint. The makeup paint. Pretty cool. And so now, since I have some of this thinned out silicone left over, I've been painting this little guy just on the front of the face. You can see the difference between, and I'll put this airbrush down, you can see the difference between the back, which is not painted, I just a little bit back here, and the neck there that's not painted, and the front. And I've just now started putting on the clear on it. I still have to get rid of these seams and stuff, but I will do that and then continue on with the paint job. But I wanted to use up the silicone, I didn't want to waste it. And you can really see how lovely it looks, and translucent and beautiful it really is. And it's got these little freckles everywhere. We're going to do more of that. But this is coming along really, really cool. I'm working with the, well, this stuff is Illustrator, but I really prefer the Real Body ink here that I get from Namie's. Our friends, actually it's Friends Beauty Supply that Sam runs and owns, just like the Bermans, inc.com. And but it's basically alcohol-based paint for painting on your flesh. Right? And I can like shade in. I can paint myself just like a mask, basically. But what I am doing is painting the mask with it, and the skin for the Martians attacks, SNG alien. And although we're never going to see it from the back, probably, I'm still going to finish off the paint job a little bit on this to kind of finish it off, even though we won't see it from the back. And I'm going to seal this with more silicone, clear silicone. And still dabbing on some of the light colors. You notice he looks very translucent, which is one of the advantages to using the silicone and these colors. Now this is kind of a red, and we're going to put a little red on it, and okay. Just doing a fine little touch-ups here. You can see how I've only got the airbrush on about 20 psi, and I can really go in here and dot different shades of the red and stuff, which is really making it pop, I think. Don't you think, Mary? And I'm kind of doing little freckly dots too. see the seam showing still. I didn't trim it that well, but again, we're going to be seeing this only from the front mostly, and I doubt on camera if you're ever going to notice that because the helmet is only clear on the front. The back part's kind of not so clear.
Hi!
Hi everyone!
We have another Q&A this time.
Yes,
you guys really responded. Thanks for all the questions. We're going to respond to about 4 of them because we got so many, but we will make sure that we answer all your questions throughout the videos. One really fun one that we got on Facebook, and it was aimed pretty much at Steve, was get a job. I love it. The gentleman that said that, I would love for you to come and spend one day with us and see if you still think this isn't a job.
Well, actually what he said was, get a real job. Well, I know you were kidding because you put the little smile face there, but still.
We would die to have you come and spend the day
Well,
with
you know,
us.
the thing is that all my life, since I left San Francisco, since I left my family, my mother, and came to LA to work in Hollywood, I was frowned upon for not going out and, you know, working a real job. Any job you do that's hard work is a real job, and this is hard work. Yes, it is fun, and there are some jobs out there that, well, that you have to do because you have no choice, and so, you know, maybe that's that category more, but we're very fortunate, and we realize that, to be able to do the work we do, and we enjoy it so much, but it is hard work, in fact.
So let's get on to the questions. Our first question is from Jim Kessler. He says, hello, Steve and Mary. With the start of October, my mind always brings me to thoughts of Halloween. This, of course, brings me thoughts of monster masks. And that always brings me to the thought of Dawn Post monster mask. Steve, can you tell us a little about your time working for Dawn Post Studios, when and how you started, and perhaps a favorite mask that you worked on? The new formal format of SNG looks very top-notch. Keep up the great work, guys. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks very much.
Sincerely, Jim Kessler. And Dawn Post mask.
And Rosie. Dawn Post. Well, you know, when I first came to Hollywood, I came here. I lived in Hollywood. In fact, I lived right on Doheny Street, just off of Santa Monica. And I got the work I could get. I worked for Joe Belasco for a while. I had become friends with Rick Baker, and he was very helpful. But and also Mike Westmore was one of the first people I met too, because I went to his school just to visit him and just to meet him that he used to give at the college in the Valley. So I really needed to get a job, and of course they all said, well, you need to get a real job. There we go again, there's that real job thing to sustain you while you pursue your dream of being a prosthetic or makeup or monster maker kind of guy. So I forget exactly how it came up, but I might have been that I called them because I don't remember that part of it. But and V and I were together at that time, and I was living in Toluca Lake, and I got a job working at Dawn Post because I needed to get some work. And I met Bill Malone and Bob Short and Dawn Post Sr., who was a very, very, very nice human being, and of course his son, Don. And I worked there for, geez, I guess about a year. Maybe it was a little more. Mostly what I did is they didn't let me do much sculpting. In fact, I don't think I did any, but basically what I did was I did clay press outs. I made molds off the masters so that they could mass produce the mask. They had a system of do the sculpture, make a 2-part mold, then clean that mold up, make a very thick rubber cast in that, take all the seams off of it, and then you'd make a 1-piece mold on this master and collapse it away inside, because this way they could pour the mask up, pull them out, and there was no trimming or seaming to do. I did a lot of that work, so mostly Bill Malone and I'm drawing a blank. Bob Short, yes. Did most of the sculpting there, so I really didn't have a favorite mask. I thought they were all pretty cool. I thought it was really neat to be working there because when I used to read Famous Monsters, I'd always wanted to get those masks in the back. there. I also met Rick Stratton there and Dave Ayers, who I've had lifelong friendships with since then. Of course, Dave I still talk to this day. Rick Stratton and I did a number of motion pictures together. How I left on post was that, so right on the coattails of that, I got called by Universal, by my good friend Robert Zarek, or Bob Zarek, if you will, to come work at and meet Vern Langdon and work at the Land of a Thousand Faces in Universal. That was the next job I got, and from there things moved pretty quickly in my career. So that's the whole story on that.
Okay, let's see what the next question is. The question number 2 is for Brian Dainty. He says, "Hi Steve, I have a question for you which relates to Mars Attacks SNG and my general interest in what you do, which I continue to be inspired by and very grateful for the chance to be a backer of."
And thank you for backing.
Thank you. It concerns your computer setup. How many systems are you running? Do you have a dedicated system for your video editing or other specific purposes? I see no bitten fruit anywhere, so I take it you're a Windows man. Your screensaver fascinates me. Are they your own custom builds or some standard program? Thanks. Looking forward to SNG 14. Have a great week. Best regards, Brian.
Well, Brian, yes, I'm neither a PC or a Mac person. In fact, both systems aggravate me a great deal. Computers in general do, but they are useful tools, and you can't live with them. You can't live without them. So the reason I choose PC is because I like to work on my own sports cars. So these are sports cars. These machines have all been built up special, which is what I can do with the PC. So I can pick out the boards I want to use, meaning the motherboard, the video card, the sound card, amount of RAM. In other words, I can build a total package. Most of the people I know that work in CGI, especially up at Universal and Warner Brothers and a lot of the other houses in town that have done Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica, and even more currently Defiance, all use PCs, all use Lightwave, and that's what I use. And so I'm just used to building towers up, especially made to run Windows and to run Lightwave, Adobe Premiere, which I own, and of course After Effects and all those programs. 2 of these computers back here are dedicated to just doing Lightwave and video editing, and I much prefer them to Macs, mainly due because I can get in there anytime I want and change cards and move things around and upgrade as much as I want. I know you can do that with Mac to a certain extent, but the cost is much higher with Mac versus PC when it comes to owning multiple machines to do editing and video and CGI. So that's why I have PCs here. Believe me, they have their problems, but I've also worked on Macs and they do too.
And when it comes to photography, I use the Macs. So we're kind of bilingual here when it comes to computers.
Yeah, we have both. We have what, 2 Macs?
Well, remember what this is?
Two iPads. We both have 2 iPhones, and we have about well, we got a laptop at home.
We have a Mac
4 or
Pro
5
and an
PCs.
iMac, so we've got some computers
So,
here.
we can complain about all of them.
Yes.
Or praise them, whatever you would care to. But.
Okay, our next question is from Patrick Russo. That's kind of like Cacciapaglia, huh?
I'm glad you get
Okay.
the last names on me.
First off, amazing work. Thank you so much. Watching your videos has inspired me to get back into modeling. Why have I ever stopped? I'll never know, so thank you. As for my question, concerning electrics in models such as lighting, I notice you light them before they're fully painted and detailed. Is this normal? I've always tried to paint and detail as much as possible before fully lighting and sealing a model. Of course, I could be doing this all wrong. Thanks. And that's from Patrick Pularosa.
Well, Patrick, there is no right or wrong way to build a model. There's only what works best for you and what you're comfortable with. So to answer that question, no, you're not doing it the wrong way. I prefer to first light block the model completely and then put the hull color on the outside only. Then I do all the, well, depending on the model too. I mean, sometimes you have to drill out all the windows first. Like with Voyager, a lot of the windows have to be drilled out first. I do that, file them out, and then put the final hull color on after that's all tidy and clean. But then I go in and start doing the lighting, because the model's going to get a lot of abuse being handled and dropped and kicked around, and I'm sawing things, and oh, I got to open that up. So I don't want to do a finished paint job on the parts. And then there's the windows to do. Depending on what model kit you have a TOS refit or a TOS or a refit. You know those model kits come with the windows already open, and they even give you windows to go in. But with some of these models, you're going to do dental acrylic, or you're going to do window maker from testers to make your windows, which means that you're going to tape off the outside of the hull, and you're going to drip in acrylic or whatever you like to make windows, and then remove the tape, and then you're going to do a little bit of sanding. So, you know, really, until all the lighting's in, the windows are done, and I button up the whole model, whether it's all in one piece, the way Simon Merckx likes to do it, or in sub-assemblies, which I occasionally do, which means that you have the saucer, the engineering section, the nacelles have been all sub-assembled and put together and light blocked and all the lighting in with the connectors there, so you can just start putting them all together. We will sometimes do the Aztecs, the final finishing, the decals before the sub-assemblies are put together, and then all you have to do is just clean up where they come in contact with the neck, whatever the model is, where the parts come together. You have a little bit of cleaning up, a little bit of putty work to do, but most of the model's already painted. Other times, like with the JJ Mobile that we're doing now, that one, the hull's all painted on, it's light blocked, all the lighting is in, and it's now we're going to start putting the Aztecs on, the final decals, with it fully assembled, which is Simon Merckx's method. So I use a little of both, sometimes one or the other, but there really is only your way, what works good for you. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I believe we have one more, and the rest will be next week. This question is from Christian Golmar. Dear Mr. Neill, thank you very much for answering my last question on your show. May I ask you again? I am very curious why you draw your storyboards on black paper instead of white. Thank you so much and keep up a good job. Yours, Christian. So why do you use black?
Well, these are always the hardest questions to ask, really, because it's all about personal preference. I mean, if you build a model, why do you always put all the electrical work and lighting into it first and then paint it? That kind of thing. Same thing with black paper. It's, you know, every artist is different in being an artist, and that I can draw and sculpt. I like drawing in black paper and on black in general. In fact, when I do paintings, I'll paint the whole canvas black first. My perspective is that first you have darkness, and then a star starts to shine, and it casts its light on objects floating in space, and you can see them. And the more objects you put into a frame under that lighting, the more you can see. So some people consider it working in reverse. I can consider it working forward. But I first got the bug from Robert Sokotek. You might know of him. You can look him up on the internet. If you don't, he's a very famous visual effects artist. And when I first worked at New World Studios for Roger Corman, that's when I first met Robert, and I also met Jim Cameron and a lot of other people there that I worked with. And he was doing his conceptual artwork on black paper with colored pencils and pastels. And it just really kind of caught my eye. I said, I really like this. It's a neat look, you know. And he had done a drawing of the creature from Forbidden Planet, I remember he did, and it just worked out so well on black paper. But then he did a lot of designs for the creatures we were doing for Roger Corman that way. And I started drawing that way, rather than starting off of white paper and doing a pencil drawing and then inking it, and then because most of the stuff that I do is night and space, it's just the perfect medium for me. So a lot of times that's how I will do my storyboards. Not always, but for this one I chose to because it's pretty dark film. It's going to be a lot of dark, creepy kind of photography and that kind of thing. So it's just really a personal preference. I just love. You got to try it if you've never tried it. Get some black paper and some pastels. It's really a lot of fun. You start drawing the highlights first on your face or your object, and it just everything else just kind of follows into place. It's really a nice technique.
Well, this is going to conclude this question and answer for this week. Thank you so much for your questions.
Thank you very much.
If we didn't answer the one that you sent in, we will next week.
We will next week.
Keep sending them in. It's fun for us to do this, and I hope interesting for you.
Yeah, it is fun.
Thank you for all your subscriptions, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Well, as you can plainly see here, things are getting fishy. This is a fish tank, but what we're going to use it for is for testing submarines. Now, somebody said, Steve, what are we testing? Well, you got to go back, you got to read what I wrote, and you'll know. Or you can go look through my pictures on Facebook, and you'll see big radio-controlled submarines and small radio-controlled submarines, which is what this tank is for, testing. And you'll know that I do that. And in fact, some people were telling me about what kind of sub I had or didn't have, and I don't think you guys even realized that I have one of Jim Key's Master Replicas 66-inch long Nautiluses. And if you've been a regular of our show, you would know that we have that model, and I have built several Nautiluses. Several Nautilus models. That would actually be the proper way to say that. For various clients. Some static that sat there and did nothing, and then a few others that actually dive and surface like mine. So this is for testing. The average subs are about the size of that black one over there. So Mary has been online and on Craigslist because, you know, a brand new fish tank like this with the base and everything is, well, they were close to $1,000, weren't they, Mary? For something this big, or somewhere in there. It was several $100s. We got this for $50 with the base. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to hold water. So
where did we find it?
We found it on Craigslist. I told him that. And it was local. And we drove over there and had a lovely Sunday drive over there, gave the man, who was very nice, Fabian, his $50, and we got this. This is great. What I'm going to do, this has a cross beam that's supposed to be across here, and I am assuming that that has something to do with, once this is filled with water, it gives it a little bit more strength. What we're going to do is, because this is an older tank, I have some separation here. I'm going to put these brackets on here so that this really holds it all together. And then we're going to re-silicone down the sides here, because he said there was a leak on this side, I think it was. And then tomorrow we can fill it with water. And the brace for it here, I'm going to make out of a solid flat piece of aluminum. So we can remove it, put the sub in, and put it back on. I'm going to start by doing this. And then I'm going to put the screws in. So, and then we're going to silicone it. And we'll come back when this is all done. This is the Nautilus, as you can clearly see, and I got her in the water and I got the lights on, and she's sitting on the surface right now. She doesn't sit that high up, about where she should if you're going to launch that boat back there. We got our forward, we got our reverse. Okay, we got the lights are on. Now I'm going to dive the boat, and we're going to dive nice and slow, just like a real submarine. I'm going to go forward a little bit. Turn the boat back here. We should be almost on the bottom by now. The trim is really nice. Boy, does that look neat or what? I mean, it's just floating above the bottom there. And I can bring it up a little bit, put a little bit of air in it, and we'll sort of hover it. It's pretty good control. It really is. I mean, this is RCABS at its best, I think. I could never, ever, ever, ever do this in a pool because with the test tank, thanks to Mary, I'm able to actually see the control you really have with an RCABS system. I mean, it's not like a piston, but it's really close. I can hover pretty well for what this is. I am really, really, really pleased with this boat. I'm just going to back up a little bit here. And you see how she stays under the water, and she's staying at level. I'm going to run out of tank here in a minute, so I'm going to go forward a bit. And then I'm just going to take it right to the bottom. It even sounds like the Nautilus. Got that whine to it. I don't think you can hear it because of what I got on it. So I'm going to go to surface, and we're going to go to surface fast now. It takes a few seconds, but she'll come up right out of the water the way she's supposed to. This boat is absolutely perfect. Everything is perfect on it. I couldn't be happier. This concludes the test of the Nautilus as we dive one more time. Crash dive this time.
I thought it would be really cool to test my old Seaview. This is the Mobius Seaview. It's been sitting around for a while, and it's pretty gnarly. I mean, a lot of this damage is from the move. Yeah, all the lights still work. Unfortunately, I will not be able to light it up because I don't have a 3-volt battery that connects to this that operates all the lights. It's a very small little flat battery. I need to get one. It also runs off of wall power as well, but I thought, you know, I had a battery here that would run this, but I don't. So we're going to run it without the lights. It took me a while to remember how it all went together. I had to put this Dave Welch cylinder together. It's a same kind of deal with a bladder here and everything. And this is a pump jet that Dave made. And what this does is the propeller turns here. This is what's called a dog bone that connects to a coupler, which turns an impeller in here. And that blows out 2 pipes here. You can just make out the 2 pipes. And they blow out both these tubes here, and the thrust is vectored by the elevators here and the rudders, which are now hooked up. And so this is for connecting all the lighting systems, so the tail lights work as well. I'll show you that they actually work, so you believe me in a minute, because I can hook them up through the sail, which comes off and is held on by magnets. So you can see that the magnets are losing their coating on the outside because of corrosion, but there's just metal up there, but they still work, so that's okay. But this sub was always one of the better running subs that I had, believe it or not, as bad as the reputation that this model has. Now what I have to do, as it turns out, the inherent problems are less when it's smaller, and that is the mana makes it want to plow. So you kind of have to drive this boat and with a bit of down elevator authority. So this is how I gain access to that. This has to slip back on here. This whole jigsaw puzzle Dave Welch figured out long ago. I should have used stainless steel screws, but I didn't. That one goes there, holds this down. Tighten that down there. So that makes that all solid. And now the next thing I got to do is get this whole part slipped on. I'm going to use my custom tripod here. Oh, I'm good. Okay. I'm just going to stick that on there temporarily for now. This whole piece here fits very carefully over this section here. Now Dave did it this way so we wouldn't have to have that unsightly cut along the top, and then you have to squeeze, and it's not an easy squeeze either, the cylinder inside to the gap there. I'm going to see if I've hooked up the lights the right way, because I will be getting a battery for this. It doesn't appear that I did. Backwards. And you can see all the lights are working on the model, even the tail lights back here, so I am hooked up correctly. And that means I can do the hard part, which is getting this to close. There's a little bulkhead there that likes to get stuck on all the time, as I recall. There it goes. So it goes together like that. This screw goes in here. I love the rust, I really do. It's so reminiscent of a real submarine. Wait a minute, this is a real submarine, isn't it, Mary? This will tighten down like so. And then we're going to put this, goes back on with a magnet too. It just holds down like that. I thought it was very clever, Dave, coming up with this whole system. Since we're not going to run the lights just now, we'll just shove that up there. Now the battery will go up there, and it's a very small little battery, and that powers all the lighting, which is really, really cool that it's such a lightweight battery. It doesn't cause me a lot of trim problems. Now I have another screw that goes in here, and this keeps the whole cylinder from moving as well. Okay. I think it's secure. So this is all secure now. To turn the submarine on, you gotta turn it on its side like this, and this. Oh, that's funny. I have two of these. I grabbed that because I said that goes on there, so I have a second one. I need a blade to pop that off. And this gives me access to putting the battery in and out. And I did turn the radio on, and then I'm going to open this like so and connect the battery like so. And I heard it light up. And this is the right one, right? Seaview, yes it is. Be very careful to use the right battery because the battery is ballast. There it goes, just goes into there. It's like fighting with an octopus a little bit. There we go. And we close that. And now the water can't get in. And that's all sealed up. This goes like this. And I did not test this for leaks in the water, so hopefully we're not going to have any issues. Because it's a Dave Welch cylinder and I don't usually have problems. You got up, down, right, left. If you look over here, Mary, you can see the elevator's moving and the rudder's moving. And we have forward and back, and that's our pump. And it's hissing. So the next thing to do is, of course, put this beautiful submarine in the water. And there's the Seaview in the tank. And we seem to have a lot of air trapped in it because she's not diving right now, so we're going to have to play with that. It's sure nice to have her back in the water again. But we've got a lot of air in the bag still, so I have to either weight it or get the air out. Well, we have the Seaview in the water, and I was amazed. This boat has not run in a really long time, and it's this is a testament to Big Dave's
watertight compartments and systems. This is what, 5 years old now, maybe more. But we've got reverse and forward. I've got to be careful because I don't want to break my my little towers there. But you can see we've got really nice slow reverse, and we got a little forward, and we got right and left and up and down, and everything's working. And what I'm going to show you now is a dive. I'm just going to go down real easy. It's not quite trim perfect yet, but it's getting there. I probably could use a little bit more weight in the stern. It takes a minute for some of the air to get out of there, and I've got some trapped air in the stern. And we're going to try to find that air. I'm sure it's in there. Or we'll put a little more weight on it. I'm not sure which. We might just stick one little crumb of weight on there. It is slowly. Yeah. It's it's going down nose first, and I'm going to bring it back up real slow, just a little bit at a time, and it's just going to tell me what's going on with my trim. There we go. That didn't take much. We'll hover a little bit here. We'll go backwards. Yeah, we need a little more weight on the stern, and I think there's some weights right here. This might be a bit much, but I can always cut some off. This is what's great about the chest tank, is that to do this in the pool, you don't get to see it from the side the way we're seeing this from the side, which is really, really, really helpful. You can really tell when it's trimmed right. Now we're going to come up again. A little bit of air. Okay, now we got too much, so we're going to go back down again. Of course, now we need a 8-foot long one of these tanks. Right, Mary? For the bigger submarines, I'm going to cut some lead in half here. And I'm going to try this little piece over what we had before. Just set it there. Up. That's better. Oh yeah. Pretty nice. Not bad. It's still coming up a little bit. I did not want to hit my conning tower. And we lost our weight. Nah, it's just the weight coming up front. Now we need to establish these weights inside. Now I'm bringing it all the way up to the surface. That was a good first test, but we lost our weights. They fell out somehow. They're coming out the bottom because they're not glued in yet. Now I've got it trimmed pretty good. You know, this boat is always hard to trim because the ballast tank is, even though it's pretty much where it's supposed to be, with a plastic model kit and a submarine that was not designed to be an actual functioning submarine, but rather a movie submarine, you have to make allowances. But this boat is pretty well trimmed now. Of course, I can't drive it. I've driven this boat many times at the lakes and pools, and it dives pretty well. The bigger it gets, the worse it gets because of the mana, but trimming it was always a problem. You usually had to trim them a little tail heavy. I've got this one trimmed pretty level. I don't know why this differs so much from some of the larger ones, but it's working really good, and that's all I care about. So I'm going to just let her dive here, hopefully this is slow. I'll let it out the rest of the way. What happens too always with these boats is that they get air trapped in them, and you got to kind of move the sub around a bit, and then it'll. But you can see this is really Really, really, I'm just doing a little reverse there. It's hovering pretty well. I mean, it's going to bob up and down a little bit because it's right on the curve. I'll bring it back up again. No problem. Let's see, sit. The decks are close to being decks awash. We can have it sit higher, and then because there's only so much air we can get in from that cylinder into that bag. We can have it sit higher and then force it under more. But then you can't just kind of have it both ways, as I recall on this sub. You can see the air coming out of it slowly but surely. That's a nice trim. I mean, I'm just sitting there. If I'm moving forward, this thing will absolutely just see. I lose that little bit of air that was trapped in the conning tower. I can go forward a little bit, go backwards a little bit. This trim is really, really nice for this boat. I'm still bleeding a little air out of there, and it's slowly but surely rising. But if I take it down and just kind of shake a bit, we get the rest of the air out of there. Because I had it sitting on the bottom before, no problem. Of course, now I got that air out, it's sitting down really well. That's terrific. And blow ballast, and up we come, nice and slow. I could stop it and kind of hover, just like with the Nautilus. We'll bring her all the way up. That's a perfectly working submarine, and I'm so pleased after all these years that it still works so well, and even the original battery's still working. Well, I'd put Seaview music to this, Voyage Above Sea music to this, but YouTube would make me take it down, so I won't even hum it, because I'll probably do that too, but I can hear the music, and you know which music I'm talking about in my head. This boat is perfectly functioning. It's functioning perfectly, and I'm going to get a nice flat 3-volt lithium battery for it and make a connector for it, and that will go in the sail. That's what I originally had, and we'll be able to light this up and dive to voyage to the bottom of the sea. See? That's why they call it voyage to the bottom of the sea. There she goes. To happy voyages. I love it. I could do this all day just sitting in place, but we're going to call this test concluded. And remember, this submarine is mine. Well, it was another great week at SNG, and I want to thank all of you for joining us once again. We will be doing more of the same next week. We're going to be working on primarily and only Martians Attacks SNG starting next week because we finally caught up with our workload. So this is great, and we're actually going to start shooting some of the movie. I mean, that is to say, live action and more work on the CGI. Be sure to subscribe. We love the fact that our subscriptions are going up and up and up. Thank you so much for your support, and have a great week.